40. And of the 150 Psalms out there, most of them were written by David. There were some by Solomon, some by Moses, and then there was a handful of others that were written as well. And matter of fact, I almost picked Psalms 88 this evening, and it was by another person, not the Moses, David, or Solomon. And it's a depressing psalm, and I almost read through that one this evening, but I decided let's not do a depressing psalm this evening. Let's do something a little bit more uplifting. And so I decided to read through Psalms 40. Now, at the beginning of the psalm, some of the psalms will actually list who wrote the psalm and what a little bit of information about the psalm. Lots of times, now this is not this information is not inspired, but it was generally added on, and just to give us a little bit more information about the psalm that we get to read. And sometimes we get enough information to be able to tie the psalm into some other events. And so some of the Psalms you can say, okay, well, this clearly was written by David, and it was clearly these events were happening in his life, which adds in some more interest into reading the Psalm, because you can read in Kings or Chronicles, you can read about what's happening in David's or Solomon's life. And as you read the psalm, and it kind of gives a lot more information about the psalm. But a lot of psalms, we don't really have any additional information outside of the words of the psalm. And so we read through the psalm and we figure out, okay, what is it that we can learn about the writer? Or lots of times it's actually not the writer that we learn something about, but we learn about God, because what we're learning is we're seeing David. In this case, David is pouring out his heart, and we're seeing this is how David is engaging with his God, and we're understanding this is what David is saying about God or requesting from God. And sometimes we can learn about different ways that we can or maybe should engage with our God, because our God is the same God that was David's God. Now, there are a few differences before we get into it, because David was a king, or some of these psalms were actually before he was king, but David was a king over Israel, and so some things God worked with Israel really specifically, and so he works with us slightly differently than he did with Israel. Israel was God's chosen people, but we are the church, we're not Israel. And so sometimes we have different promises that God has made to us as the church. And so, which is actually kind of interesting, because sometimes you see as David is crying out to his God, he's relying on some promises, or he's interacting with God differently than we can interact with God, because God has given us some promises that David didn't have. David didn't have some things that the church has. And so as we read through the Psalms, we have to kind of understand that there's some differences, but there's also a lot of things that we can learn about the same God that we serve. And sometimes we see the passion that David had, or Moses, or Solomon, or the others, in how they are crying out with their need to their God that can hear them and can answer their requests. And so that's as we go through that, that's kind of what we're talking about this evening when we look at this time of prayer. We're going to go before our God, and we're going to be praising Him. We're going to be thanking Him, and we're going to be bringing some of our requests to Him. And so as we read through these Psalms, sometimes we can learn a little bit about how we should approach God, our God, the same God that in this case David was writing to. So let's read through Psalms 40 together. So as we read Psalms 40, it starts off with, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in Him. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, who does not look to the proud, to those who turn aside to false gods. Many, Lord my God, are the wonders you have done, the things you planned for us. None can compare with you. Were I to speak and tell of your deeds, they would be too many to declare. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but my ears you have opened. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, here I am, I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. I desire to do your will, my God. Your law is within my heart. I proclaim your saving acts in the great assembly. I do not seal my lips, Lord, as you know. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and your saving help. I do not conceal your love and your faithfulness from the great assembly. That one's interesting, just in this section right here of Psalms 40, of lots of times we can have God and we can pray to our God. But here is that idea of, our God is amazing. We need to not keep our God hidden, not keep Him to ourselves. We need to actually talk about our God with those around us. Let's keep going. Do not withhold your mercy from me, Lord. May your love and faithfulness always protect me. For troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me, and I cannot see. They are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails within me. Be pleased to save me, Lord. Come quickly, Lord, to help me. May all who want to take my life be put to shame and confusion. May all who desire to ruin be turned back in disgrace. May those who say to me, aha, aha, be appalled at their own shame. But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who long for your saving help always say, the Lord is great. But as for me, I am poor and needy. May the Lord think of me. You are my help and my deliverer. You are my God. Do not delay. There we have the Psalm 40 of David, and it's a psalm, and he wrote this psalm for the director of music. So this psalm was one of those psalms that got put to music and likely sung either in his presence or more broadly than that. This is a psalm that David wrote in his expression to his God of saying, this is where I am. I am a needy person. And who could help him in his need? Well, he recognized his need, and he recognized that his God was the one that could take care of his needs. And so he relied on his God to do that. Okay, we're going to shift to a time of prayer now. So again, if you're on YouTube or Facebook and you would like to put any prayer requests in, just put those in the comment section, and Brian will relay them to us. And we'll give Brian just a minute to close down the public Facebook and YouTube feeds.